Welcome to Leadership, the Secret Sauce, the podcast where we talk to extraordinary coaches and leaders to dive into the realms of leadership and coaching. We're your hosts, Dave Lipsky and Matt Dodson. So let's jump in with another guest and find out their answer to the question, what is your secret sauce? All right, and welcome. Before we begin, a quick shout out to our sponsor, Character Matters Coaching and Consulting, where they believe that your character is the compass guiding you through life's journey. Whether you're facing personal or professional challenges, they are dedicated to helping you discover and strengthen the core values that define who you are. Dave, what do we have on the podcast today?
I would like to welcome Renee. And
Ready?
Renee, we start off with, what's the weather outside where you are and what's the weather inside?
The weather outside is beautiful. I'm in California in Sacramento, and we're the city of trees, and you definitely get that feel. So I'm looking at my beautiful red maple and all my planted pots that I just did, and it's just about 75, 80 degrees.
Very cool. I am here up in the Woodbury Commons, New York. It's running about 70 degrees. Nice day for New York, and right before you get to the Catskills. Matt, how about you?
It is stormy. That would be inside. No, it is stormy outside, and probably, I don't know, in the upper 80s and super humid. But I just got back from vacation last night, and I'm really grateful to be here. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Ditto.
So Renee, Matt and I selfishly started this podcast so we could talk to cool coaches and learn more about what they do. And we always like to start off with you're on a plane, train, or automobile, and somebody next to you says, hi. They meet you and say, hi, Renee. And they say, what do you do, Renee?
It's a perfect question because my kids ask me it all the time. What do you do again? I'm an organizational psychologist, worked in industry for 25 years and have been out on my own for almost a decade. And I do mostly executive and team development. And I work with companies a lot in the biotech industry where I grew up, really building a culture rooted in values and shared practices and ways of being and thinking in the world, and really enriching those cultures with all the ingredients that make it successful for that particular context.
You know what? I'm just going to ask, okay, so 25 years in sort of in the corporate world, and then 10 years, you look great for 35. So just so you know, but so how did the 10 years pass? Was the first year rough and then it just started to accelerate? Especially for some of our listeners that are like, hey, should I go out on my own? I've been in this corporate world, or I'm losing my job. Now what do I do? I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Maybe share
Yeah,
a little
it's
bit
a
of
very fertile void. That's what I like to call it, full of texture and meaning and lessons. And my particular decision to leave was twofold. One, I kind of always knew I'd go out on my own because I wanted to work with all different industries and contexts and people. But I was also on the verge of a pretty significant burnout. I developed a tremor and a stutter, and I turned my lens that I relayed out to the world. Hey, what's really meaningful for you? What are you here for? What is your purpose? Turn those questions on myself. And it really required me to kind of rebalance the way I lived my day-to-day life and to be a more present mother, a more present wife, a more present friend, a more present coach. And so I took that leap in 2015. I left everything I'd ever known, my identity. I was making a pretty good chunk of change. And I enjoyed what I did. I loved the people, the travel, the accolades, all the things. So I kind of had to strip myself of that identity and peel it back to really what I'm here for, which is why I love your podcast name, The Secret Sauce, because when I share what mine is, you can do that you can do what I do in a corporate setting, but there's definitely a barrier because the work that I'm designed to do is just really deep work. And you can only go so deep in the corporate setting. So in any case, the first year was really rough. I didn't even know what to do with white space. No idea what to do with the calendar that had openings and space and time. And so I had to really break my addiction to doing, which then led me to doing a podcast on being a doing addict in 2020, February 2020. And little did I know that the world would
Wow.
shut down 2 weeks later. People would be in the same void that I was 5 years before, wondering, who am I if I'm not doing something, if I'm not busy and hustling for my worth and all the things. And so took me on a different journey of my own recovery. And that is part of the work I do in the world. But now it's really just an embodied experience. But I will say I attract a lot of people who want to break their addiction to doing. So, yeah. It wasn't just like a schedule change, right? It was a whole reinterpreting what I'm here for and what it is I really want to do and what sacrifices I'm willing and not willing to make, putting myself back into a place of choice, actually.
Yeah. So are you saying that if I try to just keep doing more, I won't solve my doing addiction?
I'm so sorry. I know I'm not the only one to tell you that.
Yeah. Dave is a bad student, Renee, just so you know. We'll just start with that.
Yeah, it feels good to do and to be known as a doer, right? If you would ask me what my secret sauce was a decade ago, I'm like, doing. I can do anything. Anything I set my mind to, I can do. That's no longer my secret sauce. And I kind of coined this term, authentic inaction. It isn't about sitting there waiting for the right thing to do to show up. It's really being able to listen and pause long enough to decide, right? So here's the choice. Here's the action in front of me. What do I want to do with that? Is that action for me or not? Do I need to do it now? What do I need to do with it? All the things. So that's kind of authentic inaction, being willing to, for a moment, kind of pause and do nothing so that you can decide what you want to do and not want to do. Yeah.
And that's your secret sauce, authentic inaction.
Well, authentic inaction, I would say, it's not my secret sauce. My secret, are we ready to go there?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
yeah,
we can't wait.
I would say I'm a meaning maker. And what I was missing and why the sort of the grasping and striving and doing, why it never fully satisfied me is because a lot of what I didn't have meaning. And so really tuning into my own doing addiction allowed me to see and to really step into my secret sauce, which is to make meaning. And one practical way that plays out is I can be on a coaching call or be in a room facilitating groups. And I can hear information, if it's 2 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes where people are talking, and I just can crystallize what it is they're really, really saying, even if they don't say it. I don't know how. I feel like I kind of just the dots start to form around me and I just start to fall into the meaning of what they're saying. And then when you play back meaning for someone, it's a lot more powerful than just playing back what they said. But it's like, what I'm hearing you really want is, or what I'm hearing that you learn from that and has affected your life is, or what is clear to me now is, right? And I'm able just to kind of pin those points of meaning. And therefore people are able to then move into aligned action. So that's my secret sauce.
So how did that come about? Like were you coaching at the time or was that something that happened afterwards or before? Give us a sort of a, where you're like, there it is.
There was something in the doing, being able to do a lot and still at some point the doing starts to take more than it gives. But for a long time, many years in my 20s and 30s, when I was figuring out who I was and what I could do, and I was having a lot of success in the working world. And so I put a lot of energy there. And by the way, my mom is 80. She works full time. So I was raised by a workaholic, both parents. And so that's what I saw was, who I was. Who I was what I did. And so I think I started to just hone in on that. Like if I'm an organizational psychologist doing executive and team development, I also led a bunch of large scale transformations and all the other things OD people do. But I started to really crystallize my ability. All I need to do is be where my feet are, is to be fully present. And the work is always right there. I did a lot of digging back or looking forward and all of that. And so what I honed in on the last 25 years, 30 years of working in this space is my biggest gift is showing up, being fully present, and making meaning out of what's going on, and not going too far ahead or looking too far back. And so I think over 25 years of group work and platform work and coaching, I just finally found what makes me unique and different, and I think offers the most service to others. So what definitely wasn't like one moment, but a series of events and shaping and reshaping of who I am, and just tuning into what I'm really good at naturally.
Yeah,
And
I'm
so,
kind of like,
go ahead, Dave. I just like, so you, so say I'm somebody that goes to one of your retreats. So Renee has, you have a retreat, spend several days or a week. Am I going to learn that type of thing? Am I going to be able to just sort of unplug to really sort of, you use an expression like just stand where your feet are planted. I think that's really, yeah. Am I going to learn that skill enough to say that? Is that just, tell me like.
I love that question. You just put me right back in Costa Rica on opening circle with the rain going on and the candles lit around us and just being still. I would say one thing you feel is, particularly when I'm really dropped into those kind of intense and intimate experiences where I know so much is going to come out. So much more than in a corporate, even one-on-one setting, or you can imagine making meaning and, saying to my executive, what I really hear you want is you want to be seen, right? Can't really say that to a CEO right in front of all their peers, right? And yet that's what I wanted to say. And I sort of had to bite my tongue all the time. But in that space, people are coming looking for relief, and looking to be still and to tune back into their deeper inner voices. And so I just slow down immensely, just fully present, high contact with eye intensity and kind of just care and intimacy, holding hands, like just hands on people. And so I think there's this rhythm you feel when you're there, and people leave wanting more of that. So I don't teach it. I embody it, and I invite people to come in to embody, just to be still and learn to listen again to their deeper, deeper, deeper intuition, heart's desires. And once you get a taste of that, it's really hard to go back. It's really hard to go back. And there is a lot of content and work that happens, but I would say that sort of, that creating safety is another secret sauce, this really intimate, safe setting, or by day 2, people are like, I can't believe how close I feel to you. I feel closer to you than people I've known for 20 years. And I do that in leadership work, cohort leadership, intense work I do in Europe 4 times a year as well. And these are very, very senior people from around the world, running countries, Swiss bank, big, big jobs. And for them to like fall into this small group room with, 5 or 6 people and tell them everything, to really open themselves up to be seen and witnessed. And we always ask, what happened to you? And we learn what happened to them. And they get to then connect that with how they're showing up, both good, bad, and sometimes pretty ugly. So, yeah.
One of the reasons why we started this podcast, or what has evolved as a result of the podcast, is hearing every coach's unique story about how they got to doing what they were doing. So how did it evolve to get to doing some of these retreats? Did you go see one? Did you how did it happen? Because people, we haven't had a lot of guests that have been like, yeah, I do sort of intensive retreats. We've had a couple, but they've never really told us, well, how did this come about? Like, of all things, like most of the time people are like, hey, look, I'd be really satisfied with just having a bunch of great one-on-one, maybe some team coaching, maybe some facilitation. That to me would be a very satisfying career. But somehow it evolved into like this deeper work. How did that happen?
Oh, goodness. You're intuitive with your questions. Well, I'll tell you how my retreat life first began. I had left my corporate life. It was 2015. I'd left in October. So this is January 2016. I was at Esalen, which is a pretty transformational retreat center on the coast of Big Sur in California. And it was all women. It was the first all women retreat. So I was just surrounded by this sacred feminine. My first year out, funny, you asked, my husband, people would ask him, how is Renee doing? Because I'd always been the global traveler, work was always such an integral part of who I was. And people were like, oh, what is she doing? And he's like, she's good. She's at a lot of retreats. I really had to train myself to slow down. I also practice and teach the Enneagram. So I'm an Enneagram 7. And so 7 at their best sits at 5, which is the observer, the one who's just able to deeply take things in and be objective. So I was really channeling those parts of me that I knew were in me, but had gotten lost along the way. And I was able to hear a call, which I believe was from higher source, higher power. All these women there was like 120 women, and they were all on Sunday morning kind of claiming their big work in the world. And I was just kind of praying over them, saying, Lord, whatever's in their way, please remove it. The work was so important, changing the life of midwifery, big things. And, changing the course of the educational system, how women, and just lots of big work in the world, big hearts, big work. And I received a calling that said, you will heal the wounds between mothers and daughters. And I was like, oh, no, I won't. Give me world hunger. I mean, I fell to my knees. I was like, what? Where's that coming from? Totally clear-headed, nothing going on there. But, and then I received 4 words: know, heal, see, love, KNOW, know, heal, see, love. And it was like bright lights. It was really, I'd never received something like that. And so I just sort of listened and sat with it myself. And that put me on a multi-year journey to heal my own mother wound. And then that birthed me doing that with other women, mothers and daughters. So that was my first retreat. And then I'd always done women in leadership, always supported women, coached women, mentored women, and was known for that. And so that more deeper work then evolved into my other retreat, Soulful Living, which is in Costa Rica, and Demystifying Executive Presence for Women, which is all about presencing and power and impact and authenticity and, being where your feet are. And I do that with horses. And so those are my main retreats, those 3. And all of them, I would say the core is just bringing us back to our essence and allowing us to find our agency again. And, healing comes from within, in community, by the way. So when you create a safe space and you deeply want to see people, you have a genuine need and desire and care for people, and then you bring women together, sky's the limit. The work does itself. Yeah. So.
Nice.
I'm going to do something a little different, and I have so many questions about what you said, and I so appreciate your journey. So I'm going to read them and then ask you what you think of them. Follow the sun, and which way the wind blows. When this day is done, breathe in the air.
Mm-hmm. That is one of my favorite songs by Xavier Rudd. It's all about and I have a tattoo I got when I turned 30 on my lower back. It's a sun. A new day will rise. I promise you a new day will rise. And this moment is teaching you something. And I avoided, for you Enneagram people out there, 7s are really good at avoiding pain and discomfort and being bored. So I did that for many years and it ran out. That's not my gift. I thought that was my gift. Look at all the energy I have and how much I can do. And so there's always a new day, and just, be intentional about your life and know that joy is coming, and be joyful, and, you attract that which you emanate into the world. And so, be good things and good things will come. And so I love that reminder. Yeah. And, if we can count on every day as the sun will rise and set, and how we spend that time while it's rising and while it's setting is mostly our choice. So spend it well.
I am thinking of all the challenging executives that I have tried to get to breathe and be vulnerable, to take that journey that you talked about. What if I'm a difficult executive sitting across from you? How do you get me to breathe and be vulnerable?
Yeah. First, I slow down. So once I feel where their pain is, and I can identify pain pretty quickly. It's a newer muscle in the last decade where I'm like, ooh, I love pain, right? Pain is where change is. So I think I just slow down and I play back bigger questions. What do you mean by that? What is that really about? Where did that come from? And not like I don't follow them and ride, get on the horse and ride with them off and running. And I used to. I was really good at that. So I just sort of play back an alternative way of being in the world. And then I usually can tune in if they're willing to talk some, right? It takes just a powerful question of someone feeling witnessed and all of a sudden crack. There's something else that exists underneath that. And I do say, I do deeper work. If you want to, sort of get better at public speaking, I can help you with that, but that's not my gift in the world. There's someone else better at that. So also just leading with transparency is like, I want to know you. I want to support you in not only achieving that goal, but achieving that goal in a way that feels really good in your body and in your life. And so I just sort of, from the beginning, and I didn't do this always, but when I ended up in a relationship that was super surface and I was like, am I really helping them? And coaching one-on-one is slower than group work. So I do like the group because the group heals too. But yeah, those are just some ways that I get them to drop in and play back and kind of hold up a mirror. But it requires for me to just, be where my feet are. And I always said, oh, I'm so present. And, I wasn't really present. I was present always in front of you and always there for you and very dependable, but really present where I'm like, just deeply waiting and listening and being able to play back a question that creates discomfort. That's a newer superpower for me. Yeah.
Renee, so if you are obviously coaching at a very deep level, which requires, I think I would describe it as more deep spiritual work.
Mm-hmm.
What do you really want from your coach that's going to connect you? I mean, you just like, hey, I want someone to keep me in check. I want someone to hold me accountable. I want whatever. What is it that you want from a coach?
Yeah. Gosh, don't we all want to feel deeply seen and heard? I mean, I have a friend in my life, like when I'm with her, I just like the world just, any armor that I had on or tension, right, just melts away. And so with a coach for me, I feel like I know intuitively that most of us have the answers within ourselves. And so for me, I want a coach who's helping me find those rather than telling me what to do. I'm probably not the easiest client to satisfy. I don't think you guys are either as coaches, right? And I also want a coach who challenge my constructs that are in the way of me pursuing what it is I really, really want, into sort of this kind of equal daring, equal caring. But I do look for care first, someone who's really, it's nothing about them. They're not kind of playing out their own projections on me. It's really difficult not to do that. And so someone who's just shows up in a way of being that is accessible and consistent and grounded, a willingness to really deeply, deeply see and hear me. It's easy to judge my behaviors, but like a coach who's like, what is that about? Why did you do that? What did you feel when you were doing that? I look for that. Yeah. And then just someone then who's like, you say that, but I'm not seeing that. What's that about? Do you see that disconnect, right? So I like that challenge, and particularly into deeper rooted maybe beliefs or constructs that I hold that are not serving me. So that would be my ideal coach.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Like calling out the sort of well, I don't know. It's just like inconsistency. You're like, no, I really believe that. And I'm like, well, that's really not what your life is looking like right now.
Right. Yeah. Or I love what a powerful question. Who do you need to become in order to get that? And then it's like, wait, because you're not getting it now.
Yeah.
It's not something you're experiencing yet. So who do you need to become? What's that person doing differently? Yeah.
Yeah.
And leaving it, it's my work. And so maybe a nice lesson I learned, boy, I was super passionate. And, I had my best and one of my hardest bosses and ended up a colleague in some big transformations I led with him. He's like, Renee, you're too passionate. And as a 30-year-old, at the time, I'm like, there's no way, you can never be too passionate. But my passion, it's like, I wanted it more for them than they wanted it for themselves. God, I wanted it so bad. I wanted it enough for the both of us. Right. And so I learned not to do that. Yeah. That was another sort of stripping of my power. I don't have the power to want this more for you than you want it for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And what would you recommend? Like, give us like 3 resources that you would like. So someone's super curious about this whole idea. Maybe they're like, well, even as a coach, I feel like I'm just all about doing. And maybe they've even sort of just hung out in the behavioral coaching and not. So this whole idea around deep transformation just seems so like scary.
It is scary. Yeah. So I see you. It is scary. We get comfortable with pain, right? And at least we know what that's like. So yeah, it's a decision you make to allow the discomfort. I always said, I'm not going to force you to feel uncomfortable. But if you feel uncomfortable, let's pause and you get to decide what you want to do with that. Gosh, I would say our first resource is kind of our own agency, our own desires, our intentions, our goals, sort of what is it I already have in me? What work is already in me? What do I already believe? What's already shining brightly, right? What am I already attuned to? What's already clear to me? So that would say number one. And if you don't have that, boy, take that journey. Because at least that's a journey. I find that journey for me, things may not turn out exactly as I wish, but whatever they turn out to be, I trust that that's what was meant to be. That's the relief of suffering I get, is I'm not attached to the outcome as much, more attached to the way of me getting there. So that's one. Gosh, I mean, classic leadership book. My first boss was my best boss, good or bad, right? The bar started high. She was a working mom and had a business orientation background and all the things. And she was a servant leader. And so that's like a philosophy that I embodied really, really early. I'm here to serve. This isn't a title. It isn't about power. It's about service. And so I love that. The classics, that's probably my favorite. And I would say, gosh, if you've never been to a retreat, pick one, and there's not a perfect one for you. There's just feel like if you're like there and you're like, oh, I want that, do that, like give that gift to yourself of time, of space, of stillness. When you drop into Costa Rica, right? And the jungle is your teacher, and you're amongst women who also want deeper meaning out of life, like magic just happens. And usually retreat hosts are not always, but look for one that you fit with, but they care deeply for you and they want to create that safety, and you can trust them. But definitely read about them, because there's a lot of people out there coaching. I mean, it's like, oh, I did a 2-week course, let me hang my shingle. I believe the best coaches have their own life story really well understood, and they bring that whole part of them as well to the relationship. So, and a recent just Huberman Lab, I'm just loving him for health and well-being. He just breaks it down and gives you a way of thinking about health and well-being that is of your own agency, learning to trust your body, again, trust yourself, tune in, and make your own choices. I've had some health things recently, and the end of the day, if I'm not well, I can't serve anyone. I can't, I'm at a crossroads. So staying healthy is important to me.
Yeah. It's amazing how like that, especially on the health and well-being side, when my body breaks down, I'm willing to do a lot more than I would have when everything's just, when I'm still got the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've become very teachable.
Well, and I mean, the body's the sort of head, heart, body philosophy, which I do follow, and kind of checking in with all three are all online. That's ideal. But really your body takes the brunt of everything. It's the only thing, I was like, be where my feet are. My body takes the brunt. And so even in my own sort of burnout period of life, I can do it. I just kept going. And finally my body's like, I've been warning you for a really long time, and I'm so sorry this is going to hurt really bad, but I have bigger work for you. I know we're not doing exactly what we're supposed to do, and we're not exactly where we're supposed to be. So learning to trust my body has been an integral part of my journey, and helping others do the same. So,
Yeah. Nice. Dave, what are your thoughts?
Renee, your presence is powerful, because I'm thinking of like where I am in my life, and my daughter's getting married in October, and this is going to be surprise news for Matt, but I'm going to become a grandfather in November.
Congrats.
And thank you. And I feel so blessed, but I also recognize I need to get in grandpa shape.
Yeah.
Right.
That little person's going to, I'm sure, teach you a lot, but just knowing that that's a embodied state, that you don't quite have yet, is, I think, enough. My gut tells me enough for you to walk into that.
You creating that space is very interesting. Your presence, and I want to, like, I have another hour's worth of conversation, and I want to. The thing that I want to reflect on is, there's something about allowing in discomfort, inviting it in, and then following pain. till you get to something
Mm.
that just really fascinates me. And so I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or
Yeah,
never,
I was,
never waste a good trigger. I say, "Ooh, you got triggered.
yeah.
What's that about?" Yeah.
Well, let's lean in.
Yeah, I think of it. Well, anyway, I think there's something about pain. And I always have thought, I was taught like pain is the touchstone of spiritual progress. And
Mm.
if I really want to pay attention to what hurts or what feels very sensitive or raw, then there may be something there that I really need to pay attention to. That was the one thing that sort of came to mind. But the whole idea around just being present is a discipline.
Yeah.
In
Right. It is
in the
not.
world of lots of bings and alarms and buzzers, I find myself like challenged to just stop for a moment
Mhm.
and just to be there and just even pay attention to all those things and not to be moved by them.
Mhm.
There is a resource that I had. There was this guy, Gareth Timmons, he talked about how to be a Royal Marines commando, I think is what it is. And he talked about the discipline of allowing a bug to be on your face, like when he's out in the sticks, and not do anything because it would give up your cover. And I thought there is just no
Wow.
way that I can just be still
How big
long
is
enough. Yeah. But I thought
big
I'm
is
going
the
to
pain?
challenge myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge. So when I itch or when I, twitch, don't touch it.
Yeah.
And I thought, anyway, so that's what sort of reminded
I
me of.
love,
And as
but it's that
coaches,
contact with choice. It's just that full like
yeah.
I'm here and I have agency and I could flip
Mm,
it at the risk of whatever else, right? Or I could just let it
mm,
bug me a little longer till I really understand why it's there. Yeah.
yeah. Or
Yeah.
even just to ask the question of the client sitting in front of me, to ask them about that. Or maybe, anyway,
Yeah.
I love that you said bug me. Yeah. Well
yeah,
placed.
so many other things, Renee, that you kind of have triggered in me just in terms of thinking about. I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm still on my
I want,
journey. Everyone's like, you still seem to do a lot. And I have to check myself. I said, I would say 90% of what I do is by full choice, but I can still do too much.
Mm,
Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said
yeah.
yes to that one last thing, So I do not have it
yeah.
all figured out. I'm always in my own work. And by the way, with retreat and deep work, I always heal myself. Another
Mm,
aspect of me that prepares me for, what else God has planned for me and the people I support. So I hold that, and that makes it also a lot more meaning. It makes more meaning out of the harder times rather than just like something I have to grind through and get through, something I
mm.
need to be with. So, yeah.
Renee, how would someone get in touch with you? Like, say someone is listening, like, hey, I'm curious. Sign me up. What's the best way for someone to get in contact with you?
ReneeDineen.com, no dots, no dashes. So that has all my work pretty much there, including my retreats, has links to my TED Talk. My TED Talk, just Renee Dineen TED Talk, you'll find it has about 600,000 views. So I guess I'm not alone in my doing addiction. So that's, if you're tuning into that and like, what is a doing addiction? Am I a doing addict? And I name the 5 types of doers and why we do and share all parts of my own story. So yeah, I would start there. And then my retreats, are under group experiences, I think, in women's retreats. So I would welcome
Nice.
any of your listeners to reach out to me as well. Schedule a free call. You can do that on my website as well. So thanks for that invitation.
Mm-hmm. Dave?
I want to just end with a shout out to our sponsor. Are you feeling stuck or overwhelmed? Character Matters Coaching and Consulting provides leadership coaching and consulting to empower you to overcome obstacles and reach your full potential. Visit charactermatterscoaching.com to learn more about their transformative coaching and how to get connected to Matt for your organization. Renee, it was such a pleasure meeting you, and I am going to explore retreats.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Good men's retreats. You guys, seriously. I have a guy who runs really incredible, does deep men's work. So reach out offline if you're interested. might be
I
a
would
good
love
start.
it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, Renee. And until next time. Bye. Thanks for listening. If you love this podcast, please share it with another coach or leader. Make sure you go to the show notes to get all the resources from today's episode.